Something on my car seat. A Center Market bag. Oh, that must have blown forward from the back. Alright. Screw it. I don't think I have time for a cigarette. I do have the recording going now, so at least it's a start. A lot of people, they got these ideas, like, I'm autistic, so I don't like looking people in the face. It's rude. But then there's the people who say, hey, look me in the eyes, look me in the eyes. But then if you look people in the eyes, if you make eye contact, they go, oh my God, he's threatening me. He looked in my direction. Oh my God. Oh, fuck. World we live in today. God, I could use some of that extra fat. I got your spot, partner? Oh no, you're good. I try not to sit down too much, hits my back.
Me too. I gotta stand up for a minute as well. It's like you can't sit down, you can't lay down, you can't stand up, only a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little bit of stand up, a little bit of lay down, a little bit of sit.
And a lot of cold weather.
And the walk really too.
Oh, I couldn't do it. I'm having to park down by the Fred Meyers. I can't make that walk. I'm lucky I got a vehicle. Well, when it doesn't entrap me in a area anyway.
I feel like I'm breaking the rules.
Yeah. That was
That's a lot. It's in your river though. Right? Jim? Jim? Hi. Sean?
Yes, ma'am. I'm coming. here.
I'm Danelle.
Oh, do you know?
We're gonna go this way.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead and have a seat.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm a behavioral health clinician or a therapist,
Yes, ma'am.
and looks like you were referred to me for anxiety and trauma.
Sorta. I was referred to you because the other services in town have done absolutely nothing. They haven't taken any of what I've had to say seriously, and the cops certainly aren't. I'm here because my best friend got shot in the head in 2017, and cops haven't wanted to do their job since. It's difficult because when a homeless and disabled male goes into the hospital, especially here, we automatically get treated like we're crackheads or meth heads or junkies, and it's very unnerving. There were a lot of threats and harassment and assaults that happened over Natalie dying, and the problem is everywhere that I'm pushed to move, it's the same thing. I'm still a homeless, disabled male. I still get my disability income, but all of that has been robbed from me, and I've had to depend on a lot of people who are on drugs or alcohol. And then I have to deal with people who don't understand that when your name is slandered the way that mine has been, and it becomes popular among these internet web sleuth groups, like you can look up the name Natalie Bollinger, you'll see there's a bunch of sites that, you know, they basically paint me as some sort of a horrible person, and I was harmed by the public. I need to have a victim's rights advocate, but I can't get one of those unless the cops will take the situation seriously. There's a guy here in town named Robert Farnsworth, and he made it so that it was unsafe for me to go to services. It wasn't just him making it unsafe, it was also the mandated reporters that were present. One of them was at the First Christian Church. There's a lady named Eileen, and 3 of her daughters volunteer there. They work at her 3 daughters work at the Starbucks at Safeway here in town. And I did talk to them, and I recorded everything that I needed to with them about their ignorance. And it seems to me that although if I'm forced to break the law, I don't get to play ignorant, but the police and all of these other services get to.
So where did all of this happen? I mean, so
Well, this started in Boulder, Colorado.
Okay.
I used to do a job similar to yours,
Mhm.
not accredited or anything like that, but my job was to be the homeless liaison.
Mhm.
And there was a outreach. It was called BOHO, BOHO, and they're closed down now. They were a homeless person created service, but they passed them off to the local sheriff's department like they did with the well, I guess they call them battered women's shelters, but back in the late 80s and early 90s, they were called safe houses. Well, they're all closed down all across America because they were handed over to sheriff's departments, and then the sheriff's departments keep getting sued for harming the wrong people, harming people that folks actually care about. It started off in Boulder, Colorado, and we were friends at that point in time, and she was suicidal and she was going to kill herself if I didn't keep my word to go to Virginia. And so I went to Virginia after she attempted to kill herself, literally hours after calling me, saying, if you're not already on the road, I'm going to kill myself. And then she tried. So I went, and the cops there, they didn't do their jobs when things went south. The car that I had a pre-existing problem. They gave me a phone that was broken for my birthday, and that was actually the source of almost all the issues in Virginia. The phone was broken. Alicia Bollinger worked at the Cricket store, and I had a flip phone, and she wanted to do a nice thing for me and change my flip phone over so the number was on my new phone, which was Natalie's old broken phone. I did what they asked me to. They wanted to go to the pagoda in Norfolk. We did that. They wanted me to stay behind where Alicia worked because there was a Starbucks there locally that I could use that Alicia's boyfriend worked at. Alicia Bollinger is Natalie Bollinger's sister. Anyway, I was dehydrated in Virginia. I didn't have my safety network, which people don't get how important that is, not just for an autistic adult, but for anybody, you know. But since I had hurt my back, I wasn't able to take care of myself. I wasn't able to work. The friends that I did have, instead of focusing on the problem at hand, they wanted to be angry because I wasn't riding my bike. I literally couldn't get on the bike. And the lady who sold it to me was angry that I wasn't riding it to work every day. And I literally couldn't go to work. I couldn't function. So that's how me and Natalie actually ended up being friends. I was suicidal over abuse by my friends and also by the Boulder Police Department because they're hobo hunters. I ended up having to stay with some drug dealers in Colorado because even though I was being assaulted in Boulder over things that did not happen in Virginia, because that's where I knew them from, was Boulder originally. By the time I got back to Boulder, I got to hear a bunch of rumors and how I'd been arrested and how I'd been blocking traffic and threatening to kill Natalie and Alicia and their family, and it's just insane. So I couldn't go back to Boulder and see my support network or my friends or family. I had to try to communicate with them. They'd only do so in text, like infants. And then they'd go out of their way to take everything that I typed in a wrong way. And then there's all of the dismissive things that people say. Now, for me, having the training that I had and also growing up in the system, have you ever worked in a child mental health care facility?
No.
All right. Well, one of the things that was common in the 1980s, we would have to have classes, the sexual abuse classes and stuff like that. And then you have your classroom time, and then you have groups, and then more classroom time, and then more learning. So we got to learn who it is we're supposed to go to. We got to watch the McGruff videos. I'm not sure if you remember those. And then the actual state reporting videos. I mean, ever since I was a kid going through this, I've known what I'm supposed to do, and I've kept up as well as I can based on where I'm at so that I don't break the rules. But at the same time, I'm an autistic adult and I have no support network. I come from a family of addicts and I go up in the system. I get treated like when people find out I'm autistic, they get this assumption in their head that I'm some retard who grew up under a rock with manservants and maidservants and don't know anything about the world. But I grew up in the system because my parents couldn't stay off the drugs. I stayed away from the drugs all growing up. The medications that I did take, it's because I was in the system getting beaten up all the time. And one of the things that has been a major factor in this is that when cops don't want to do their jobs, they tend to pass the buck on to somebody else, like a hospital. And if a police officer tells a hospital something, most of the time the hospital is going to believe that officer. They're not going to bother to look at it. I do try to look you in the eyes, but your computer keeps bleeping and stuff.
Yeah, and it should stay quiet now, I think.
That's one of the things about having ADOS, attention deficit shiny. I had a LMHP, her name was Marcia Estrada in Colorado, or in Nebraska. She diagnosed me with PTSD. I was also diagnosed prior to that with complex PTSD. I was also diagnosed with, I've got Tourette syndrome, so if I wink at you, I'm not hitting on you. I've had a lot of people beat me up for being a homosexual, although I'm not. I do fit into the LGBT community somewhere because I'm not interested in anybody, man or woman. I'm just grossed out by the concept of fluid exchange. Mucus is icky. But there's a lot of things about autism that people don't understand. As quiet as your office is, this is a very comfortable place to be. I've got evidence of the things that I've said so far in my bag there. But the problem is, I can't function stuck in public with all of that ambient noise and all that while I'm in a state of crisis. And I can't go to police officers without a friend or family member present. My paperwork, even that's the instructions that it has for me. When it says how to prevent it to begin with, it doesn't even address me. It addresses my friends and family first. But if I had friends or family who cared, I wouldn't have ended up homeless. I can't exactly go to people who are drug addicts, and even if they're related, and ask them for help. I've got 6 years worth of when I go to try to turn in the situation with Natalie and all the stalking and all that, because I'm a homeless male. I have real police work to do. You need to go to the mental health services for that. Um, sorry. Oh, all right. Maybe I shouldn't eat so much garlic. I went to the corner market last night. They were the only ones open. Anyway, the first time that we meet, it'll probably, as we are now, it'd be me trying to remain calm and explain 6 years worth of stuff all in just a few seconds. And the problem is, or a few minutes, if people want something done in 30 minutes. If it doesn't happen in the time that it takes to watch a TV show, then it's not worth their time. Now, with the harassment and the threats that I've received on the internet and in real life ever since 2016 when I left Virginia, and then Natalie getting her brains blown out December 29th of 2017. This is only 2 weeks after I exposed her dad for molesting her and her sister, forcing them to sell drugs when they were underage, and a few other situations of abuse that they had endured. Now, I already knew that that was something that you're not supposed to do. You're not supposed to give out the victim's information or who their predators are. But the thing is that by that point, there was a girl named Maddie Boa. She was 19 or 20, I believe. She was originally going to go on the trip to Virginia with me, but she wasn't able to go because she got busted selling meth. Now, I don't mess with meth and never did. By the way, there's also evidence that I was poisoned in Hood River, and obviously that sounds crazy, which is why I record everything. The problem is I don't have anywhere to process the information where I'm not stuck in public. If you go to my YouTube channel, you can hear me stuck in public in places like Fred Meyer's and Starbucks. I mean, there's so much ambient noise in the area, and the clanking of the machines and the coffee grinders, and it makes it very difficult. And then I'm told that because I'm disabled and so easy to walk over, that I have to record it, and that makes it difficult because even if I record it, I still have to have somebody who's willing to look at it and speak up about it. Um, there's also the fact that police officers that I was trying to turn in were coordinating with my predators because obviously after Natalie disappeared and it turned out she got shot in the head, they put it all over the news, and now there's web sleuth things even years later that pop up because of the way that I've been treated as a homeless person by law enforcement. I have to be afraid to go to them anyway, and I've got hundreds of recordings with other homeless people who are aware that these things happen, but they're afraid to come forward. So I've got hundreds of screenshots of that. Meanwhile, people expect that because I'm autistic, my dad, for example, when he got out of prison, thought that I must be some sort of a rain man. And so he's always wanted to have me mess with numbers and make him money, or learn HTML in the 90s to do computer stuff and make him money. And really, that just leads to me hating doing things. It's one thing when you're interested in computers and you're going to play with it on your own time, or video games, even same thing, or watching Game of Thrones like lots of people do.
with the violent life that I've lived and the number of dead bodies that I've seen, it's disgusting to hear that and to listen to it, and it brings me back to that trauma state. There's also when people yell over me, that's traumatic. When people start playing victim because they were called out for doing something wrong, that's very traumatic. And a lot of people, they have these good suggestions, but they don't understand how damaging they are. Like I'm enduring long-term abuse. So when I try to explain to people what that means and that I'm still going through it, a lot of them only had one traumatic experience or two of them when they were way younger and they were allowed to move past it. But for me, I don't get to move past it. I'm in a constant state of crisis and trying to explain 6 years worth of abuse at once with no place to process it for this entire 6 years. I've got the evidence. It's just a matter of finding someone to help me turn it in.
Another restricted number. People have been giving out my phone numbers since Natalie died. A lot of people will try to hack my account, and they have been for a while. I've got multiple notifications about that. I've also got friends and family that were involved in the situation, admitting to the things that happened. I've also got the paperwork from states that show that the police officers did in fact lie repeatedly, knowingly, and intelligently. And, much like when I was here a few days ago, the officer that I spoke with was there for several inappropriate situations with other law enforcement officers. According to the guidelines here in Oregon, they were supposed to contact a social worker every time that I went to the hospital and explain that I'm an at-risk adult being taken advantage of and being abused. So I've got recordings with several hospitals, where I'm explaining that to them and they don't get a hold of a social worker. They make me come back. Or there's the police officers who try to dump me off on mental health and they just drive me to the mental health place, drop me off there, and then they leave. I'm like, well, that's not how it's supposed to work. You guys are supposed to work together on this. And so then instead of the mental health place and the police working together, it becomes all right, well, we're going to all stand around and get an attitude with you because you're trying to get us to do our jobs properly. And that's not okay either. That's an intimidation tactic. Could you write down Clearview Behavioral Health on there?
Pardon?
Could you write down Clearview Behavioral Health on there?
Clearview?
Yes, ma'am. Johnstown, Colorado. I highly recommend looking them up. I was sent there for trying to turn in Waylon Lolatai, who was an officer in Boulder County.
Okay.
Waylon Lolatai assaulted me, and that was in January 2018, right after Natalie had disappeared. I was forced into homelessness. There was people that I was trying to turn in, my landlords, in specific in Colorado. They were drug dealers, and that's been pretty much the extent of my adult life, is that normal people don't accept us. So despite the fact that I don't do drugs, the only people who accept me are the ones who wink and blink because they're on methamphetamine. And
so what is it that you want me, what is it that you would like me, or like from me, I guess, from today's session? Because usually what I'm doing is, as a behavioral health clinician, I do an assessment of someone and we're working on some sort of a goal, some sort of treatment goal that's to improve someone's health-related condition. I'm not doing case management. So, this sounds like more case management, like what I used to do, but I don't do that anymore.
Well, the problem is that's through Tillamook Family Counseling
Yes.
Center, and the problem is that I was assaulted on January 28th of this year at the hospital, in the presence of a TFCC worker.
Do you remember who that was?
I don't, and that's one of the things with having to have case management being sent to TFCC. There's also
multiple other homeless people here, and there's another lady, I think her name is Becca, said that she used to work there and that she quit her job because it was, she said it was too stressful with the red tape. But also I wanted to say that last time I was here, I was absolutely adamant that the lady that I was speaking with at Tides of Change, that her name was Tamara. It's not. I was wrong. I looked it up. It was Monica, and I didn't mean to mislead anybody or to argue with anybody. I do admit when I'm wrong.
Okay.
As far as you're right about the case management,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, again, I started jumping through all those hoops when I first got here, and now it's at the point where a lot of evidence of child abuse and child endangerment and a lot of the evidence of the abuse against myself, it's at a lady named Vicki Rain's house over out in the country. She made a lot of promises to help me, but she's got her own mental problems, and that she didn't let me know until I'd already moved my stuff there. I'm not afraid of people that have multiple personality disorder. I am afraid of what they might do. And that's why I usually leave an area when there's that issue. Well, she was able to convince me that she was mentally there well enough that she convinced me to move my stuff over there with promises that she didn't keep. And so then when she had a meltdown over her own issue and I was trying to hold myself together, that evidence represents my freedom, and it represents me not having to live in my car. One of the first things these people are supposed to do is check my vehicle and, well, my living conditions. The thing is that I'm autistic. I can't do these things for myself. I can't provide for myself a place to sit down and go through all this stuff.
Were you diagnosed as a child?
Like
under 18 or under 21?
Yes and no. My dad and I went to see a neurologist, and he was supposed to be a pretty up there doctor in his field, and this is in the early to mid 90s. And that guy, I want to say the first time I saw him, I was like maybe 10 or 11, and he told my dad that there's a type of autism called Asperger's, and that I very likely had it, and that he just had to do a few tests. But he'd already done a couple of them. He did a thing with Legos, which might sound weird, and some other toys that he had. But he had talked to my dad about the autism thing. By that time, I'd already been in the system with some autistic kids, and I knew what happens with that. That automatically, because you're autistic, you must be wrong, and you're labeled that way and stuck that way. And so we discussed whether or not I was going to go back to that guy and get that, or whether I was going to try to hide autism, try to hide Tourette syndrome. It's called masking, and it's nearly impossible to do all the time, but I have to do it all the time.
Things that you're fighting against. Okay, so you've got all these, there's a couple things that there's buckets, okay? You've got these legal things that sound like there's a lot of criminal activity in other states that,
this state too.
Okay, but there's a lot of these things in other states that, of course, the police can't do anything about here.
That's not true. So we've established that. I've got the recordings as well and some of the laws.
But there, I don't know as much about that. In terms of like abuse and neglect, I do know some of that. Okay, in the developmental disabilities world, there's a couple things that have to happen. You have to be diagnosed by a psychologist, and you have to be diagnosed with there has to be certain criteria before age 18 and before age 21.
Well, I do fit those criteria.
But it has to be on paper and recorded somewhere for that to even be looked at. Okay,
And I do have that recorded as well. I have my diagnosis from the people who I was diagnosed by. The problem is getting people to look at it. A lot of people want to stop me and tell me what the criteria are in one place or another. Usually the first thing I do when I get to an area is look that up.
yes. Oh, okay, okay, so we'll finish up. The third
When I try to
bucket-
turn in cops or try to turn stuff into cops, I get blown off. That is neglect. I am at risk.
Yeah.
I get disability checked for that, and I do have
Of
the paperwork
course.
for it. The problem is that it's ignored because I've been
Yeah.
forced into homelessness without a steady
Right.
address, being forced to stay with alcoholics that are screamers, meth addicts. I've got recordings of all these situations.
Right,
Now, here in Tillamook, I'm also dealing with being socially isolated due to the police not doing their jobs. There's also the fact that I've been bullied to the point that I want my life to end, but I'm not trying to end my life. I'm trying to get help stopping the abuse.
I'm just not sure on how I can help, and I'm not sure who in all of these buckets has the ability to help, because I know in the developmental disabilities and mental health field, I know what her limitations are. I know on the aging and physical disabilities, I know what their limitations are.
I get money for having physical disabilities.
Yeah, and there are investigators in both of those, but there's limitations. They can't when they can't they don't have any legal power. If it's a crime, it has to go over into the legal system, and if the
But the
legal system
legal
doesn't
system
want
is
to,
the legal system keeps pushing me to mental
Yeah.
health. If I'm assaulted as an at-risk
Right.
adult, see, my rights are supposed to overlap. There are my rights as a disabled person. There are also my rights as an
Yes.
American citizen. They're supposed to
Exactly.
overlap, but they're being used wrong. So there's this big gap in the middle. They get to pretend I'm intelligent to deny me the rights of a disabled person. They get to imagine disabilities and try to.
And I don't want to, not validate what you're going through. I know what the limitations are because I've been in that system, and that's part of the reason I don't work in that system anymore.
You were the 8th person in this town to tell me that. Nobody likes the system. There was even 2 of the hospital workers who talked to me after I left the hospital and said, you know what, here's the thing, dude. When you came to the hospital, all right, you were obviously scared. But the other thing is, I can't afford to go to the hospital if I have health issues and I work there. So I'm not trying to be rude by this, but I don't see how you get off thinking that you can go into the hospital, march into the hospital, and think they're going to do something for you.
What I would recommend, so what my professional recommendation is you work on the mental health aspects of what's going on for you.
And that's one of the things I've been doing. And one of the things with that is that it's health, mental health wise and physical health wise, friends and family are supposed to be there as a part of that.
Yes.
And that hasn't happened.
Well, and
that's not your fault.
Right. But if you can start getting the therapy to start processing all of these things that have happened in your life.
And that requires me having a safe place where I can actually access the services. I have to be afraid to go to any of them.
And I get that.
The biggest thing right now for my fear here is I can't even go to the hospitals here, and my evidence has been stolen by a lady who, I like her. She's really nice, but she's not. The assault that happened at the hospital on the 28th, there was a TFCC lady who was there, and I was trying to explain to her what was going on. I was there for back issues and to turn in crimes that were happening here in town that I have video of. Mm-hmm. And I keep getting sent by the police. They keep sending me to mental health for this.
Right.
Now, according to the state of Oregon and their mandated reporting laws and the fact that I do qualify, they expect me to do things I'm incapable of doing without the resources so that I can get all the paperwork and everything that I need to prove to them that I'm telling the truth. Mm-hmm. And then once I get it, they want me to start over again, or I get run off until I have to move somewhere else. Mm-hmm. The assault at the hospital didn't need to happen. And the lady from TFCC, she had a legal obligation at that point to turn it in.
All of the hospital staff there did, and I don't know the statute numbers. I was trying to memorize them. There's like 11 different ones though.
I'm sure.
I mean, the problem that I'm having is that people don't understand autism. They don't understand sensory processing overload, and they don't understand that when people threaten to kill me, I take it serious.
Yeah.
Nobody else does.
So,
If these people harm me and threaten to kill my friends and family enough, I do get sick of it, and I do get scared for my friends and family.
Exactly.
And I did threaten those people back twice.
so it sounds like you have been accessing everything.
But I've been doing it alone, and that's where I'm getting blown off.
I wish I could build you a network. I would suggest you keep advocating. I do think you do need to go to Tillamook Family Counseling and make an appointment for a full assessment
But
with
I did
a provider.
I did try to do that once already. The thing is, it ended up being a runaround.
Well, you are entitled, and
about-
that is their job. Okay, and I can put in a referral from here, and that will doubly make it. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and
One
I
of the
do
other
have to
thing
get
is,
to the next.
yes,
I'm so
ma'am.
sorry.
oh, you're totally good. You are a breath of fresh air. You listen quite well. What I need to do is work on getting a safe place to sit down with
Yes.
my evidence and process it.
Yeah. Have you been out to Helping Hands? You probably
I haven't
have.
actually made it out there yet because when I first got here, every time I was about to go out, I would meet with the services in town and then decide if I was gonna go out there after the services, but they'd always call and say, oh, well, there's no room. And it just, after almost 3 months, I got tired of it.
Okay, well, put that at the top of your priority list, okay?
Yes, ma'am. Also, I'll write stuff down better organized time because I
Okay.
was kind of afraid before I came in.
Yeah, one of the things is you can try to make an appointment. I don't know if I have anything, and I'm gonna be out on leave because
3
I'm
weeks. Yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna be a grandmother soon.
Oh, congratulations.
So, yeah, you may not be able to see me for a while, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
But-
Is there somebody here who has a disposition to be able
Well, I
to
think you
handle
met-
somebody like
I
me?
think you met with Esther, but.
I did.
Okay, she's the only other behavioral health clinician, so, but go over to Tillamook Family Counseling, you advocate for yourself, and I'm gonna put in a referral too, okay?
Yes, ma'am. I
Okay.
followed the self-advocacy protocols.
Yep.
Just a lot of times when I
Yes.
assert myself, I get,
I know,
yes, ma'am.
okay.
Thank you, Danelle. You rock. You still out here waiting? Oh, yeah, you were early for your appointment.
Yeah, I was early.
Ooh. I need a new back.
Yeah.
I should have had kids, then they could
Knees.
assist me with that.
Shoulders. Brain. They're usually snap, snap, kick up over.
Yeah, it makes them hurt less when I gotta walk out to my car.
You know what it feels like.
Yes, sir. Well, you be safe. Good luck with your appointment.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Save, okay?
Yes, sir.
What's going on?
I came here a little bit unprepared for the meeting, so I was coming out here to set up an appointment. She did inform me, same as you guys did, that she's gonna be on leave.
Okay.
So she said Esther is the only other behavioral health specialist.
Right.
So I guess try to set something up with that. I don't know. It's not her fault. I came in here with a lot of anxiety, so I was rambling like a madman, of course.
Did she say when you should come back, in like a week or 2 weeks?
No, she didn't. That's the thing is I was asking her what I should do because she's going on leave. There's, different options that got to be explored. I guess. So I'm not sure what all to do about that. I'm trying to remember her exact words because I think it was more of a. I guess it doesn't matter. When I'm stressed out, I can make a simple sentence last for weeks.
So I have one in a couple weeks with Esther on the 18th.
Yes, ma'am, that'll work.
Okay, it's at 3:30.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And if anything changes, because I did reach out to Danelle, if anything changes, I'll call you. And we can either reschedule or get you in sooner, kind of see what she wants to do.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah.
For this being my first meeting with her, I did ramble quite a bit, which
You're okay.
she does have a very comfortable office though, and a very good bedside manner.
She's awesome. I love her.
Yeah, I definitely had that same feeling.
Yeah. Alrighty, there's that for a reminder for you.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
All right, so my phone is overheating. Yeah, I do like her. Some of the stuff I wasn't able to explain because she was trying to mansplain stuff at me, I guess is the way to say it. Obviously, she didn't mean anything by it. It was just she'd heard me ramble long enough. And it is rambling at that point. Usually my first meeting is. Although, well, there's multiple people that I met with, including Ted Hill. He's a behavioral health specialist in the state of Nebraska. The stuff from multiple jurisdictions doesn't matter, or multiple states, it doesn't matter. What matters is getting representation. Now, as far as the developmental disability, there's lots of documentation before I was 18 and before I was 21. Several of those diagnoses have been bullshit, but the fact is, my dad was under the impression I was going to get disability at 18 and that it was already set up and that it was literally just a click away from happening. Obviously, Danelle did speak. A lot of people in this town have quit their jobs in the mental health field here because it's just too much goddamn red tape. It's not my lack of efforts, it's their fucking red tape. We also get to see how many people marched right across that red tape. Same as if they were to march across a protection order. Yes, I do qualify as a developmental disability person, but the problem is that my developmental disabilities prevent me from getting the developmental disability stuff. Well, not just the developmental disabilities, also my physical disabilities, my financial disabilities. There was a lady at Tillamook Family Counseling Center who spoke to me at the hospital. She was there and present when I was assaulted. They just wanted to push the suicide thing, and that is never okay. That discredits the victim. That pushes the victim to suicide. Obviously, Miss Danelle is somebody who has spent time working that end of it and was not fucking impressed with the state of Oregon as far as that goes. Although she did not state that outright. The thing is, a lot of the red tape that she's going to talk about, I'm already aware of, and that red tape didn't actually exist for any of my predators. They removed any and all red tape so that my predators could turn me in, but I couldn't turn them in. It's highly inappropriate. Now, for her pushing me to TFCC, knowing that there was a lady who was involved in one of the assaults, that sucks. Now, as far as police taking me to institutions, knowing full well that I'm trying to turn in those officers, and they take me to institutions and tell those institutions, be it a hospital or otherwise, that I am schizophrenic, they're outright lying. And that's why friends and family are supposed to be involved. They're supposed to know you. They're supposed to know your quirks. My mother and my father both could have spoken up about me having Asperger's. My father was very well aware, because he's the one that was taking me to the appointments in Washington State so that we could get a diagnosis. It's my other diagnosis that is considered a developmental disability as well, that is also not being addressed. And yes, it is a developmental disability. It is something that I was diagnosed with as a child. And when she was explaining stuff, see, one of the things is when she had this belief going into it, and I wasn't able to explain well enough to deter her from going in that route with it. I don't feel that it's a situation where she did anything intentionally malicious or anything like that, because that is decidedly not the case. You got to hear her speaking. She does sound very genuine. She did interrupt me on multiple occasions. Oh, that's not going to work. I just realized that I left my cane hanging out. Anyway, I got to go back to a very unsafe situation. Having to live in a parking lot, not having my evidence so that I can go through it and send it in, and not having a safe place to go. I don't know how long it's going to take that recommendation to go through. I should have asked that. But we will likely try to do something about that tomorrow. Like I said, I'm glad the lady exists. There's a lot of people I'm glad exist. The problem is that when it comes to developmentally disabled people or physically disabled people, when it comes to disabilities, it's still against the law, and they're taking advantage of both my physical and mental disabilities. That includes post-traumatic stress disorder, which is, not sure if you knew, but it's actually against the law. Now, I've broken that law myself, especially recently. Shea Burton can attest to that. Now, albeit I didn't go threatening to kill her or threatening to kill her family or cut off her testicles or slice her throat or anything fucking creepy like that. But I mean, really, there's no way for me to safely go to any of the places that I need to. Especially with police officers going out of their way to be as violent as they are and as oppressive as they are, and of course doing everything they can to ignore any and all crimes that are committed. especially against the homeless. It's not my lack of effort, but their lack of effort. Their excuses, they're talking over me. They're not getting a hold of the social workers like they're fucking supposed to. Anyway, I have Danelle Boggs' card so I can send her some of the evidence. Hopefully that'll help with recommendation, although it'll probably get there a week after she's made the recommendation. Do everything they can to remove that red tape from volunteers. They'll do everything that they can to help out my predators, and that's not acceptable. I do have to be afraid for my life and my well-being here from law enforcement, as well as from the general public. Now, Danelle, I was recommended to go to because she was an investigator, and I looked up the name, and sure enough, she was an investigator. When she worked at Tillamook Family Counseling Center, but she's not an investigator now. The important thing is to get me off the street out of these situations. Now, as far as self-advocacy goes, because I am called disabled, they can walk right over my self-advocacy by bullying me, and they often do if I'm alone. Now, that lady didn't use any bullying tactics. Well, there was one of them that could be construed that way, but that's only given the fact that people don't understand that this lady isn't one of the ones that I've gone to already, and it's her former co-workers that I've got the issues with. This place here, I did have issue and still have issue with the fact that I had to talk to that officer alone. That is never appropriate. The fuck, Montana? Oh. Not sure if any of y'all have been paying attention. There's a lot of missing people from Billings right now. There's a homeless man that was in Colorado, and his mother lives in Billings, Montana. She's a white lady. Please forgive her for that. I know it doesn't fit with the MMIW thing. And I understand that her son disappeared from elsewhere, but just like with Hardin, Montana, only 40 miles away from Billings. When Frida Nose's gun disappeared, October 18th of 2016, she disappeared on her way from Washington State to Hardin, Montana, on her way to her aunt's funeral. Now, this other lady, I'm going to do something on her, hopefully today, because, goddamn, I'm sure she could use it. Not that any of my contacts in Colorado, my illicit dealers, I should call them. These guys were heroes to a lot of homeless people. A lot of folks sold their weed just so that they had the money to help others. Of course, I can't go bragging about that. You guys go nuts on me. Oh, you're just making that up. I need to be able to safely make a police report. Without a friend or family member, I can't do that. These places that are supposed to advocate aren't going to do that. They're going to tell me it's not their jobs. Anyway, I've got nowhere to go. I mean, I could go over to the Fred Meyers for a little bit, but the thing is, this is inhumane. You know, we've got mental health workers that definitely agree with that. We've got a lot of mental health workers recorded on my channel that quit their jobs because it doesn't work. A lot of them are completely disgusted by it. They don't get any help done for anybody. They just run around circles, wasting time, wasting energy. Now, the longer it takes for them to do something, the more cut off I am. Having another recommendation to Tillamook Family Counseling Center after multiple situations with them that are recorded resulted in me being told that it's not their job, it's not their job, it's not their job. And of course, I get the Debbie Downer stuff. That's the one part today that was, of course, always a downer. I already know what the roadblocks are. I already know what hoops I'm going to have to jump through, and I already know what it's going to take. So when people start telling me what it's going to take, I just want to tell them, hey, if I had the ability to print it out, I would print it out for you and hand you the paperwork so that you could see for yourselves. It wasn't just me who had the wool pulled over their eyes. A lot of these workers had the wool pulled over their eyes. They were told things that are incorrect. They were taught things that are incorrect. Very similar with Eileen at the First Christian Church. You know, she's recorded on my channel talking about how they're not trained, how they don't have mandated reporter training, how they're not aware of what they're supposed to do. And I did want to talk with her and convince the situation to hopefully arise and present itself where we can go before a city council and possibly get something done. But see, here's the thing. The longer I'm ignored, the more likely it is the crimes are going to be committed against me. And with me being afraid to go to the police for obvious reasons, I'm more likely to have a meltdown over trying to find somebody to go to them with me or talk to them with me. Oh, very nice. I like oars. There's a martial art based off of an oar. Several of them, actually. One of them is a Maori martial art, and the stick that they use is the taiaha, and it is basically an oar with a wooden spear at the other end. Then there's the aiku, I believe, is the name of the one that's, well, not Japanese, Okinawan. All right, I needed to get something to have heat here. Back. All right. I got a camp axe here. And it's funny because it's the same exact company, same exact hatchet. It's like $2.99 in Colorado. It's one of the cheap bottom of the barrel ones, and it's $20 here. Now, some of the ones in Nebraska and Colorado that would have been, well, around $15 to $20. Here they are $30. I don't have a place to process the evidence, and that's the most important part, being able to process the evidence. Oh, that's a cool kite. Arr. That one's pretty cool too. And I love the sea turtle. No, I don't come in here to look at the kites. This has nothing to do with why one of my favorite stores, or my favorite store in Boulder, Colorado, was a place called Into the Wind. Ooh, a power kite. I could probably run a kayak on that thing. So it's got dolphins. Very cool, huh? Oh, wavy gradient. That's basically a mini parachute. I got another one here, a big backpack type. What size are these? It says 5+, Starburst large backpack kite. Line and winder included. $20, Premier Kites, www.premierkites.com. These guys are from Maryland, but it doesn't actually say what size they are. Huh. Obviously, being prevented from having access to my paperwork is a big issue. Obviously, being prevented from having a steady mailing address and having to trust crazy people prevents me from being able to have that and turn it in. Obviously, the lady that I spoke with today, Danelle Boggs, she had certain ideas and beliefs about that. I did try to clear them up. I am gonna try to speak with that other lady there and on the 18th, at, I believe 3:30. And of course, obviously a few of the things that she said that were incorrect did result in me talking more and faster, which you probably noticed. Oh, that is so cool. They have really cool toys here. This one right here is one of my favorites. It's a shark. I have the shark. I should have gotten the dolphin though, but the dolphin's more expensive. I did end up with a few floaties and stuff that, well, they're all at Vicky Rain's house, so it doesn't do me any good, but I do try to pick hobbies that I'm able to do. A lot of people have assumptions of my abilities, and I have to get past those before they understand that, yeah, the situation really does need to be dealt with as quickly as possible. Now that I have the stuff in the card, I can try to send some of this stuff to Danelle Boggs. The thing about the multiple state thing, this is the problem, is that I'm being forced to move somewhere else by law enforcement who won't do their job. It's not the predators that are the problem. It's the cops who are making every excuse to do nothing. When it comes to my safety, I have to talk to police alone. That is never okay. When I speak to the police, I have to have someone there and present with me. Otherwise, they can get away with doing whatever they want, as they have been doing. It also has to be recorded. If you're going to be a coward, then you're not going to be able to be helpful, and you are going to get innocent people harmed or killed. That's not okay either. Those are cool cribbage boards. 10-boat cribbage board. Classic boat cribbage board. Oh, cool. And of course, magnetic chess. Obviously, with them having pretty cool toys here, this is one of my favorite stores here in Tillamook. Catch it, critter net. Oh, very cool. Alright, so basically what I needed to get here was some sort of camp heat for my car. See, this is the problem, is that I was jumping through the hoops. Get that developmental disability stuff done. That's the problem with being treated like I didn't try. Is that I did try, and there are plenty of witnesses to it, and there's plenty of evidence that shows that. Getting these guys to look at the evidence, to realize and recognize that the evidence does exist and needs to be looked at, is difficult. And with Danelle no longer doing what she used to do, it makes it very difficult for me to get anything done. That is very cool. Alright. $100-foot lead core. Oh. Obviously, I'm not the only one. You know, you guys call me crazy when I tell you something, but when mental health workers say it, well, you just pretend they didn't. When I tell you something about the police and their situation, and you guys treat me like I'm schizophrenic, and then a police officer says it, and you just pretend he didn't. Oh, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. It's a kukri. Good knife. Wonder if it's less than $30. Ooh, $29.99. A penny less than. And of course, I could order one from Bud K, but it would end up going to Vicky Rain's place. Now you also get to see how I got to try to stuff everything into a half an hour to maybe 50 minutes with these appointments. There's not a whole lot you can get done or explained in 30 minutes, especially when somebody's got their own ideas. However, that's what looking at the evidence does. Damn velociraptors. Ooh, Walther CCP. Very nice. Colt railgun. Walther P220. Oh, is that a 22 long rifle conversion for an end of 1911? Conversion kit, 22 LRs, target silver for, oh, that's for a Kimber Arms. So that knockoff 1911. They've also got a Savage version of the Cricket, which is very cool. Beautiful. Oh, look at that one. It's a Cattleman's carbine. It's the Heritage Railroad Rancher 22 long rifle. Very cool. I love the way they work. Oh wow, that looks like a slam fire. No, it's Dickinson Arms RP12. Definitely a shotgun. And no, I'm not here for guns. I don't own a gun. I do like working on them though. I like fixing things. All right. Guess I'm getting the camp heat, huh? So I'll get that taken care of. It's like $7, which ain't too bad. Ugh. I'm so glad you guys exist. Let's keep me from freezing my Royal Rastafarian mayonnaise off.
Right?
There you go. Thank you, sir.
You need to respect.
No, I'm definitely not bringing them back. There's some stuff that lady was wrong about, but it's understandable. Like, if you're developmentally disabled, it does not have to be diagnosed or on paperwork before you turn 18. There's various types of head trauma that definitely fall under that category. Let's see. Esther Bradine, MS. Alright. The other thing is that I did have the paperwork. That's one of the things about having to go in there without the evidence, because some nut job stole it again. Me getting taken advantage of is why I'm supposed to go to these places. The cops refusing to do their jobs. Well, if these people knew what their jobs were, then they would have had social services show up when the police showed up and actually do the right thing. From me being told to go to Tillamook Family Counseling Center, well, I can't trust Tillamook Family Counseling Center. But I got Campy. This stuff is the shit. Some mornings there's too much ice, and my fingers are too cold for me to hold the ice scraper. Plus, it sucks getting out of my vehicle. So I just pop one of those things on for about 20 minutes, and then I can go somewhere. Alright, well, good to be with you. Thanks for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper and no victim left behind.